Are we on?
Hello.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Comedy Cellar Nightly, a nightly show we do here on Zoom to comedians to shoot the shit, hopefully entertain some people. We're here almost as always now with Estee, the booker of the Comedy Cellar. How you doing, Estee?
I am okay. How are you?
I'm okay. The most feared woman in comedy, according to the New York Times. We should devote the whole episode to why Estee scares people. Stories.
I almost started clapping out of habit.
Was this a new article or are they just repeating that?
That's Mike Cannon. Hold on. Mike Cannon, Jared Freid, Ricky Velez, Nimesh Patel, and Mushy Mike, who hides behind the. I don't get it, Mike. Why don't you show your face? Aren't you, Mike? Show your face.
Sure.
Aren't you a comedian?
Yeah, but I'm not past the cellar.
So why don't you want to be seen online?
Audition right now. Estee is watching.
Perfect.
5 minutes. Go.
Do something funny, dude. At least be Fred Norris. That was funny. He's a prop act. All right. So, So why don't we talk about that, Jared? How did you first met Estee when they were doing a documentary for True TV or something? Is that right?
That's true.
Tell us.
Bravo.
Is it a good story?
He did not have a good audition at all. And we had a conversation after that. Do you remember?
I remember.
I almost shot Lenny for it.
Yeah, I was about to say, I would let you tell the whole story, but I remember Estee was not happy that she even had to audition you. Like, so go ahead. What happened, Jared?
I was called. Lenny was like, I want to suggest you. And I go, great. Thank you so much. Send him a video. And then I get a call. He goes, you got an audition. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. And then a week later, he goes, listen, True TV is doing a documentary. and we're going to need you to do your audition on the documentary. Will you do it? And I'm like, oh, of course. What am I going to say? No, so went and did it. And then I did it. And Estee watched me, loved me, knew I was a star from the beginning. That's how I remember it.
So you failed your audition on national TV, correct?
Yeah, so I auditioned on.
True isn't national.
Now these kind of moments are often valuable later on, because when you're a huge star, it'll be like, one of the record companies passing on the Beatles, with some guitar bands are not going to last or whatever it is.
Well, she did not pass me, but it wasn't a glowing review.
No, that's Estee's way of not passing you.
It was not love at first sight.
It was not, yeah.
It was not.
Estee never says you're not passed. She says, that's very good, we'll see.
I saw Jared that night.
Right, absolutely right. I'll give you, if I see there is a spark and I can change some of the things I didn't like, I'll see how it goes. And it went well.
That's how we left it. Let's see how it goes, that's like the worst,
No.
Great. In retrospect, it's great, but it's.
Most people, when they audition, they're very nervous. You were talking a mile a minute. You are stepping on your own punchlines. You were sweating. You were. I looked at Lenny because I made Lenny stand with me, and he was like that. But because it was the True TV was there and whatever, I didn't want to interfere with anything. When you came off, my first thing to you were slow down. I couldn't even understand some of the punchlines. That's how fast you were.
But that was.
And then I said, we'll give it another try and we'll see. And we did, and it was a little better and better and better. And now you're a superstar.
And now Lenny
superstar.
Lenny doesn't get any hosting.
He does a great job when he hosts.
That's Jared getting passed by Estee,
I mean, listen, he wasn't horrible, but he wasn't great either, and he knows it.
And now you know me by my better name, Leslie Jones.
Aw.
I know you as a good potential.
So,
That means you
what-
can still fall off. You can still
Yeah.
fall off. You can
Knock
be
you off
banned-
your horse a little
You
bit.
can be banned from this
Right
show.
there. You see?
I love it.
I'm so glad we did Jared's audition.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, let's go. So,
Now everybody
Yeah,
else.
around the
yeah,
horn.
now, of course, I don't remember Ricky Velez's audition, but I'm sure it was like a charmed audition, like everything else in his career. He just floated right through it, no problem.
With Ricky, there was another problem. He was really funny, but he was a little too dirty for my taste. Do you remember?
Yeah, I was drunk.
And with that, I
It's
recommended
got to be
him.
pretty dirty.
No, he was. He really was.
Who recommended Ricky?
I recommended him to.
Who recommended him
was
to
my
you?
recommendation.
Yeah, I recommended him. He
No,
did
no.
the nightly show.
We heard who
No.
recommended that you see Ricky?
Michael Che was
Michael Che.
recommending me.
Yeah, Michael Che recommended him originally, and I recommended you to. Oh, what's his name? Ooh, I'm getting old.
Larry Wilmore.
Wilmore. Yeah.
No, not. He's
Rory.
show-
Oh, Rory. Yeah.
Rory.
Yeah.
So Estee, tell the truth. It's a lot easier to pass on Lenny Marcus's recommendation than Michael Che's, right? Let's be honest here.
But that's not true. I will listen.
Yeah, not true.
There are certain people I listen to, not more, not less. I mean, if somebody is horrible, then I have no choice. I wouldn't pass somebody or give it a second or third chance if I thought that the person is a dud.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm just saying, if you're out there and you want to get recommended, if you can get Amy Schumer to recommend you instead of Ray Ellen, it's probably a good strategic move.
No, that's not true.
That is not true.
One of
That's
the
not true. I've seen-
latest auditions I had, it was somebody that did not do well, and I did not use him after that. And
Who
it
recommended
was
them?
Amy.
Mike, cut.
Don't ask if you don't want to. You, as a lawyer, you should know. Never ask a question if you don't know the answer.
I knew the answer. I didn't think you'd say it.
And now that person is an
No,
intern
it
on
was
the
a
new.
complete understanding here. A complete understanding. Actually, somebody else recommended that person first, and then Amy also
Well,
did.
Estee, don't worry. They're an intern on Amy's new Food Network show, so don't worry. They're doing okay.
No,
She has a new
saw
Food
the
Network show?
trailer for that. It's actually really fun.
I look good. New Food
Yeah,
Network show
it does
started
look good.
tonight.
Amy's doing a Food Network show?
She is doing a show with her husband called
Oh.
Amy is Learning to Cook.
Oh, that's cute.
But her husband is a chef, you know.
What's the premise?
And she's learning, and the trailer is great, you know. Amy interjects her
being,
personality and her. I mean, she's great. I think it's
Right.
gonna be a,
How are they shooting
nice
it?
departure, nice departure from all the other cooking shows.
Like Tom Papa Breaks
Can we go
Bread.
back to? Can we go back to the fact that Noam thinks my life has been easy? Sorry, my dad didn't build a business.
We should all be so lucky that the when we're the brunt of jokes, it's about how charmed we are and how handsome we are and how easy things is for us. Oh, it must be tough,
Personality
Ricky.
has a lot to do with it too, because let's face it, jokes of course are important and it's funny, whatever, but the way you are on stage and the charm and the smile and the wink type of thing go a long way of being successful as a performer.
Listen up, Nimesh.
Now I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
No, listen, I can tell you about people that were very low energy, very shy, didn't express any emotions, whatever, and they were superstars. They were great. Stephen Wright, for example.
Yeah.
That was his
Stephen Wright
strength.
would turn to the wall and talk to the bricks,
Gilbert.
you know? And yeah, but I mean, so it's not 100% like anything else in life. It's never 100%. But to have the personality, the charm, and the smile and the good energy on stage,
Yeah, but
wins
Estee,
them over. Even if a joke doesn't work,
but
if they
Estee-
like you, they don't, turn on you.
But Estee, Jared still has other options. He's going to make it.
Jared,
I mean,
He's going to make it.
if we were gonna just bully
consider-
Jared the whole time, I would have just
Oh
texted.
my
His own
God.
throat in a second.
I consider
Adamant weren't here.
comics that work in the Comedy Cellar.
Yeah.
They're all stars. Some of them picked already, some of them didn't yet. But I consider all those people very, very special and stars in the making. I
That's
really
right.
do.
That's right. Thank you, Estee.
Mushy Mike just starts crying.
Yeah. Ah, Mushy Mike.
He's on the
Nimesh,
phone with his agent.
Nimesh, when did you audition? Who recommended you?
Marina recommended me,
Oh,
and I auditioned June of 2016, I think, right around then.
how'd it go?
I did not have the Jared conversation. I had give me your W-9, or here, I'll send you, here's the email to send the avails and whatnot, and that was it.
Yeah,
Index
Nimesh had a very, very strong audition.
Thank you.
Sometimes people do better in the audition than they do like shortly after.
Hey,
I walked right into that one.
I've seen that.
Noam has a point. Some auditions are very strong and it do not materialize.
What is the
Maybe if they don't work or jokes.
You know when to be honest, that sometimes happens with hacks. Because sometimes when you see a hack for the first time and you don't realize they're a hack, you can be fooled, and because hacks can be really funny. But then upon repeated viewing, you realize, oh, there's no depth to this. This is it. And if they don't have exactly this moment, they're helpless. Yeah, go ahead, Jared.
No, Noam, you're right. Estee didn't get my art at the front.
You're no hack, Jared.
You didn't understand my art, and I was a little weird and eccentric, and that's what it was.
Don't give yourself that much credit.
All right, Mike, your turn.
No, but Jared also is a very, very good host.
Who? Jared?
And Jared,
Yeah, but
and
that's like the kiss of death. They don't want to be hosts.
I have a quality skill set.
Jared's the best at setting the party up. He's a good party host.
No,
There you go.
Artie Fuqua is the party host.
No, listen,
Artie
he's
the
not,
party Fuqua.
he's not one-dimensional. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
That's right. You guys are all one-dimensional.
And then you see that
One-dimensional, 15 minutes. What's the difference?
You see that mustache? That's a porn star in the making.
Yeah, that's right. I can do it all.
Damn right.
That's a Burt Reynolds mustache almost. That's what that is.
It's powerful.
I gotta shave it today. I gotta get rid of
No,
it.
keep it, kid, dude.
You gotta keep it,
it.
dude. It fits
Keep
your
it.
face.
Yeah,
No,
fit the face,
get rid
dude.
of it.
It
Get
truly
rid of
works in a non-ironic way. I mean, you look like a cop for sure, but
You look like Mateo's life partner. It's not working for you.
You look like Mateo's older brother who's intolerant of his lifestyle.
Hey, Ricky, what's the story with the movie?
You look like a black and
Yeah.
white character in an old movie. You should put your camera in black and white and tie a lady to the railroad track.
I
was a
got to
walk,
see.
So go ahead, Mike. How was your audition? I don't remember Mike's audition.
I got an audition because Colin had a heart attack, and I happened to be there, and I filled in, and I had a good set, and Liz sent that tape to Estee, and then I got the audition.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't even know who formally recommended me, but my conversation afterwards was
The
God
Grim
did.
Reaper. The Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
But Estee afterwards was mostly complaining about Kevin Brennan doing a joke before me. I forget what the joke was. I think it was a diarrhea joke, and you were just like, "God damn it! I told him not to do that joke on the early show."
Had Liz seen you prior?
I don't know. I think she had seen me like maybe one other time, but that I had a really good set that night, so I think she had seen growth and told me to send it in.
Mike, are you sitting in the VU?
Yeah. I'm in the Fat Black right now, so.
Is that your apartment or your grandmother's apartment? Where is
This is my in-laws' home.
Oh yeah, I had a feeling.
Yeah, it's extremely Italian. It's this is the Papa color wall, and then everything else is gold, and there's a 6-foot knight statue in the corner.
Can we see that whole painting behind you?
Show the night.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh God.
Oh, he's out.
So Estee, tell us, how was Mike's audition for real? It had to have been horrible.
You remember it, Estee? Do you remember his audition?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
1 to 10, how was it?
No, never mind.
You have no plastic on your sofa, so it's not 100%.
Estee, who had the best audition? Who had the worst audition of the people who went on to actually become big names?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't remember.
Oh, come on, Estee.
No, I don't remember.
We know that for instance, who was good
And
right
I'm
away.
not going to talk about anybody else.
Okay, but we could talk about progress. Like Chappelle was brilliant day one.
Oh, Chappelle, I seeked him out. Oh my God. 3 o'clock in the morning. You're talking about a good audition.
Yeah, I mean,
he was sitting in the olive tree eating. I went over, Sheridan.
Wait.
He said, whoa.
Because I want to say Randall Sheridan, not Sheridan.
Go ahead.
Told me about him. He was about 19, and he says that he saw him in Washington, and that he says you have to take a look. Now that guy never recommended anybody.
Rondell?
So I knew that that's got to be something that I wanted to see. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. We're almost closing, and I went over and I asked him to do a few minutes for me. Yeah, sure. He went on stage and did his thing. And I went upstairs and I called Manny at 3 o'clock in the morning. I called him. I said, "You're not going to believe who I saw tonight." And I told him. He said, "Oh, great." He was like, he didn't chop my head for waking him up. And from that point on, whenever he was available, I used him. It was great. He was just great.
Okay, so Chappelle was always great.
Unbelievable.
Louie
I can tell you. And talking about charm.
Yeah. Well,
he was charming and smiling and energy at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was just like, I don't know. I found treasure when I saw him.
And and Alan Havey was brilliant right in the beginning, and Jon Stewart.
Alan Havey was very, very powerful. But I never auditioned him. When I started, Alan already had a sort of a name, and he was the 800-pound gorilla. I mean, the guy was the guy then.
I remember when
he destroyed every time he went on.
Yeah, when he first started, he was just hilarious. But then
his specials on HBO, you can go watch it right now.
Is it still funny?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny to watch. Like, it's a half-hour HBO special, and he's like, a young guy out there. Like he's like a 20-year-old guy. Like it's
very handsome. Very handsome.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do a review on Instagram Live, Jared? You're gonna yell about it?
Jared. You can watch the whole
totally naked watching Alan Havey.
It's gonna be 1,000 dots across the top of the screen.
He was the first one that got his own show on Comedy Central called Night After Night with Alan Havey, where it was a talk show and he interviewed people. He was the first one.
Yeah, he came a few
Was
years.
there
too early.
was there ever somebody that was just like too famous you couldn't say no to get on stage and they were just terrible?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, but I'm not going to talk about it. There was actually most recently there were a couple of people with no agreement because I don't want to have my head busted. I would say I cannot use that person because he's not reliable on stage. He gets drunk or drugs or whatever, and it was a big name.
Wow. Wow.
So there are a couple of people like that.
That's
Is
young
that
Alan. That's
Havey?
young Alan Havey.
He looked.
Hair is incredible.
He looked at that time. He looked like young Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
He was handsome. He was hip.
He looks like Ryan Gosling.
Mm-mm.
That's a
All
stretch.
right, never mind.
We always used
Lost
You know.
confidence quick.
he really did, and he always had this twinkle in his eye, and he was very powerful on stage, very powerful.
That picture didn't format right. So Estee, and who took a long time to develop? Louie was struggling for like 10
Yes.
years, right?
Yes,
Although he was always respected, but he wasn't like going over.
Louis would get on and make sound effects, not real jokes. And then Patel, who we all love and admire,
Oh, that's right. Tell used to
was
clear the room.
terrible. He would walk the room.
But he's now doing sound effects with a recorder.
I mean, this is an example of two people that at some point we didn't use as much as we did when they became who they are. You know what I mean? Patel always walked the room and yeah.
Estee, wasn't there some big fight between Louie and my father? My father yelled at him because you're not funny. Did that happen?
That's
Some-
awesome.
It was something like that. We had that big comedian meeting. At one point, many called a comedian meeting. I remember we're in the cellar, and Paul Provenza came, and Louis and Patel, and Louis came with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder.
Can you imagine that? Go ahead.
And yeah, and
And Paul Provenza was like, "This is a show."
Yeah.
30 years.
well, Manny was trying to understand the need of the comedians better.
Right.
And we went through the very late spots for the newer comics that they got minimal money. Then we went through food spots. And there was a little bit of an abuse where comics would come and all kind of things. And so at some point, Manny
These
said,
comedians.
tell us.
Estee, let me just stop with just 1 second to make it clear what she's saying. There was a little abuse because these comedians who we were getting to perform just for food. We're trying to sneak some extra food. But go ahead, Estee.
Actually,
These ingrates.
Judd Friedlander, Rasmanif, all these people, what they would do, they each one decides what they wanted to have and order it all together and share. That was fine. But people
I'd rather pay than not have Judah in the same food as me.
Estee, hold on. I want Estee's going to continue this story, but because it's really good. But it's just hard for you guys, I'm sure, and it's hard even for us to remember how different it was then. Business was scarce.
It's
very
not,
slow.
I honestly,
Very slow.
I tried to interrupt to say, like, even to this day, a food spot would be considered good.
Yeah.
In
Don't
some
say
places,
that.
yeah.
Don't say that to Noam.
We would never.
Wait, at that meeting,
If you look at
many as the comics said, look, we need you. And we didn't have people. So instead of sitting upstairs, they were supposed to sit in the room and not to be disruptive and not take advantage of the club. And so Manny laid out what we wanted from the comedians. And then he said to the comics, tell us what you want from us. And I remember Paul Provenza got up and said, we don't need the money. We don't want the minimal pay, the money or the food or anything. The only thing we really need is audience. We
An audience.
didn't have audiences. And so many took it to heart. And that's when we started a host outside that would encourage it, like a barker. But we did it classier. We had a nice waitress do it. We had this Russian girl. Do you remember Noam? She was incredible. She was so nice and quiet and polite. And then Louis Schaefer, who used to host during the week, especially the late shows, and I couldn't find a host. So I asked Manny if I can use him as a host once.
Do you guys know Louis Schaefer?
No.
No.
Okay, well, I'll tell you about him, but I gave him an MC spot. And the next day, he walks into the olive tree with a little basket on his hand with carnations and start going to table at the olive tree, inviting people downstairs. And he started filling up the rooms. And so, yeah, he got the people in.
You're writing this down?
Heels and no cover if you had this or what. And the rooms became busy.
I'm calling my carnation guy for after the quarantine.
Louis Schaefer was kind of like a slightly feminine Harrison Greenbaum.
Exactly. And from that point on, we had a host outside to make sure that we have the audiences. And it wasn't even a question of money because of the deals that we make. We didn't charge cover, whatever. And Mustafa and myself got into my car, we made flyers. We went to concierge all over New York City to hotels. And I organized a night just for the concierge to see the show and to start sending people. I mean, everything was geared to promote that room and fill those seats. Because we heard at the meeting, not that we didn't know before.
I have to say, I don't remember
how important it was to the comics.
I don't remember it quite the same way as Estee, but on the key points, I agree with her, which is that we did have the meeting. We forgot about, and in that meeting, my father had a fight with Louie, whatever happened there.
Yeah, and he walked out, and Louie walked out.
Yeah, but Louis Schaefer was responsible for.
Is Louis Schaefer in London now?
He's in London. Yeah.
Really? Listen, the whole story with Louis unfolded very negatively at the end. It ended really
But
bad.
at the end of the day, he was still allowed to walk out.
He was still allowed to walk out.
Then,
and the Patel story.
With the time and good shows and word to mouth and all the effort that we did combined, start the ball rolling.
Okay, well, I don't know if it's interesting to anybody, but I don't really remember it the way Estee did. This is the way I remember it.
Wait, what year was this?
This is 95, 96, right, Estee?
Okay.
How many shows were you running in a night?
Estee, would you agree it's about that 95, 96?
I think it's before.
All right. So
before that, Noam.
Well, Louis Schaefer is later than that. So we were running like one continuous show on weekdays.
Mm-hmm.
From 9 to like 12:30, and between 12:30 and 3 were the new comics that were doing like 5 minutes each.
And weekends were maybe two shows at that time, maybe two shows.
One host through the whole thing? One host?
Yeah, one host. So, and it was very, very slow. We talk about it all the time, how the waitresses used to have to take off their aprons and sit in the room so that if people walked in and looked in, it would look like we had an audience. And this is really true. So then we tried Barker's or whatever it is. But the thing is that it never really worked. It's just hard to do with flyers and stuff like that. The way it works for other clubs is that they actually cheat people. They promise people who are not going to be there, or they start wheeling and dealing with ticket prices, all kinds of things that my father was not.
No,
My father was, well, hold on. My father was not capable of that kind of wheeling and dealing. So you'd have somebody out there and didn't amount to much. And it was frustrating. And then Louis Schaefer came along, and on his own, he started doing exactly what Estee said, going up to customers one at a time, giving them flowers, charming them. He loved it. And, you know, he's just like one of these natural salesmen. And he was able to fill the room like, come see me, I'm going to put on the show. And he would learn. And that opened our eyes to the idea that this actually was possible. But then what Estee is not remembering, but she will remember when I say it, shortly after that, the internet came along. And on the website, we began to offer free admission if you signed up if you put your email address in. And we started doing 40, 50 people a night. Do you remember that? And I remember my father saying, telling another business owner how the internet had saved his business. And then we would have a few guys outside, like hosts like Mustafa or Hatem, who would get paid to get people in. But these were very high level, very, very high level skilled at doing this sort of thing. And it was almost impossible to find other people who could do it like these guys. And then while that was happening, as we were beginning to see some growth, but definitely not really with our heads above water, not like we were rolling in dough or anything, but just like doing better. Then Seinfeld and Colin Quinn brought Seinfeld down, and they started shooting Comedian. And at that point, things really began to turn around. We started getting press. Shortly after that, Tough Crowd came along. That really elevated. So, and it just all began to get the ball rolling.
No, Noam, is there a thing that you remember? Is there one memory you have that's like the thing that, other than like, you know, Colin bringing down Seinfeld? Is there like one thing that you're like, that's the moment I was like, wow, this is crazy?
No, Estee would know that because I actually wasn't really involved at that time. I was running the Cafe Wa.
But I mean,
but I knew this from a different angle, what was going on from a different angle than Estee, only because I would speak to my father and you know, we would discuss what was going on. I wasn't actually there seeing it, except I remember very clearly Louis Schaefer, and I remember very clearly setting up the websites. I remember things from behind the curtain in a different way. Estee can answer your question better than I can.
I feel like the first season of Louie had to be, after that, had to be insane.
That was a big thing too. And also,
how about I snuck into the cellar for the taping with my Canon. I was underage. It was on Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah. Hannibal opened, right?
Hannibal opened.
Yeah.
And to the cellar, and I sat right next to the stage, and I wasn't even old enough to be in the cellar. I was using a fake ID.
We were like 2 weeks into comedy, probably.
We were in it at that point. Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
That first season of Louie was interesting because he almost didn't even get to do it because he kept asking Ava. You guys know Ava?
Yeah.
And she was busy, and he was trying to get permission, and she was trying to get his insurance certificate and all this stuff, and he was getting exasperated. And Estee, I think, alerted, said, "You got to talk to Louie because he's right." Was it US?
Yeah, Louie came to me, and we would lose Louie. So I said no.
But I remember very clearly. I met with Louie in the olive tree, and it wasn't Louie. It was Louie. It was like talking to Jared Freid or something. And he said to me that he wanted to do a show, and I'm kidding, Jared. And as always, our attitude was, okay, well, you know, let us help you in any way that you can. It wasn't like, oh, this is going to be, I mean, almost every one of these shows peters out, right? I mean, we'd seen 100 of them go nowhere. And there was no reason to think that Louis would be, his previous show was on HBO and didn't do well. Pootie Tang, we also Pootie Tang. So nobody was like, but Louis was part of the family, and we wanted to stand behind him. So I did the show, and we were going to do it for cost, you know, like $1,500 a show, whatever it cost.
No. When I told you that Louis is ready to go to the other club, you went to Louis and says, "Do whatever you need to do. Don't worry."
Hold on.
in that first season, he was taping at numerous clubs.
Wait, that's what I want to get to.
Yeah.
This is the thing. So we did it for cost, which is what we always do. And then he did it. The first show, he was half at the Cellar and half at Caroline's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Except though, and we never knew about it, he filmed the intro going into the Cellar, and we didn't know that was the case until we saw it on TV. He never mentioned it. So then immediately the show began to catch on, and I began to see people coming in front of the Cellar and shooting their friends, like reenacting the intro and stuff like that. And people, you could hear them saying, that's where Louie does his show. So it occurred to me that this was something different than what had happened before. So I felt the next season was coming, and I felt we never really had publicity like this before. So I went up to Louie, and this is really a key moment here. I went up to Louie and I said, listen, Louie, and I described just what I'm saying now, how it's for the first time I'm seeing people pointing and coming down and whatever it is. I said, from now on, when you want to do the show, I don't want to take any money. Just do the show, because it's ridiculous that I'm getting this kind of publicity and also asking you for money. And I suspect, though I don't know, that Caroline's, I really don't know this, but Caroline's might have seen it the opposite way. This show is successful, and maybe now we can ask for more money, because all I know is that Louie never again shot in Caroline's after that conversation. And that was a game changer for us.
Listen, I do like Caroline's. I think it's a great club, but it's a totally different game. I think it's a totally different club.
It's like a good character on the show. Like, it fits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Cellar. You know?
You can't walk down the stairs to Caroline's the same way you can at the Cellar. You know, it's just visually.
Yeah, you're greeted by like a modern bar with neon. It's different.
So to be very clear, I don't know, and I'm not trying to denigrate Caroline's, God forbid, at all. I just think that that's the way it played out. I think that the usual instinct of a business owner is to number one, be afraid to admit that they're benefiting. That's the natural instinct. Like, this guy's giving me $100,000 worth of free publicity. I better play it cool. I don't want him to know what he's giving me. And I always felt that's kind of transparent, because he fucking knows. He's not an idiot. You know, so I said, better to acknowledge it and do the best I can to pay it back, essentially. Like, I don't need you to pay me $1,500 if I'm getting all this. And that's not the usual reflex. And I think it's
no, if you do the math on it, he actually he just gave the money to your wait staff.
That's right. He gave so, Estee, what do you want to say, Estee? Estee's pissed off.
No, there was nothing else.
What are you mad about? Something happened in your house you're mad about, or something happened that I said?
No, it's fine. Nothing.
Huh.
Jared just got unpassed at the club.
And Patel was Patel was like, you know, kind of clearing the room when he was young Patel. And we had a waitress meeting, and some waitress complained about Patel cleaning the room. My father was like, that's it, Estee, no more Patel. You remember that? And then this waitress, Julia, I've told the story before, Julia, who my father really respected. She had a really sophisticated comedian level sense of humor. She was very, very smart and very, very clever, very insightful. And she said to my father, no, Manny, because my father never saw Patel really. My father says, no, Manny, he's a genius. He's a genius.
Wow.
And my father had such respect for this waitress, Julia. He said, oh, okay, hold off on that. Let's see what happens. So she was actually crucial. I mean, he would have eventually come around anyway.
Noam, have you ever banned anybody in the way of just like own personal bullshit, or just just like don't think it's funny, it's done?
We never banned anybody, have we, Estee? Estee, who are you talking to? Estee, what happened, Estee? We lost you.
I'll be right back.
Estee, what's the matter?
Nothing.
Have we ever banned anybody?
Yes, we did.
Who?
Oh, shit.
You know, I'm not gonna say.
Sherrod?
A lawyer never asks questions he doesn't know the answer to. No.
No, well, I know. Sherrod got suspended for like a week or something, but we never banned. Like, it was never like actually banned or something. Who
I love that. I love that there's suspensions at the Cellar. That's one of my favorite things.
I mean, Sherrod got suspended for what did he do? For telling the customers we had rats or something. What did he do? Something over the top like that. What did Estee like? Didn't something like what happened, Estee?
I really don't remember anymore.
With my father and Sherrod, something happened, and then
but Manny banned him, and then Sherrod always does something to get a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, but
he always does something. He really does.
But the truth is, if anybody ever got banned, it was never, ever, ever because of something personal. It would only be because, for whatever reason, they were a threat.
Disrespecting the club or the stage.
It was a threat to the
other comics.
Or what? Or other comics.
Or other comics. Conflict with comics.
Yeah, Kevin Brennan, but I feel bad about that. By
the way, I watched him do a podcast this week from his shower. He was sitting next to his shower doing a podcast, being like, "I don't want to wake the kids."
I already know who you're
wife
talking
doesn't
about.
hear.
The only saving grace that Kevin has is the fact that he's funny. He's positive.
He is really.
Everybody kick him under the rug.
I watched him do Lenny's opening joke when he knew he was ahead of Lenny. I watched it. He goes, "You guys." I watched him go. I was hosting, and I watched him go on stage, and he goes, "Oh, what do you guys think? You guys are all looking at me like I'm gonna fix your printer." And I immediately, no one laughed because it doesn't make sense for him. And I'm going, "Oh my God!" And then Lenny walks in. I go, "Lenny, don't do." I had to like warn him.
Stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. And it's like, you see that, that's maniacal. That is like one of those moments you're like, are you out of your fucking mind? You have 15 minutes.
That's so funny.
Estee,
that's
you say
so
stuff like
funny
that.
though.
But Estee, on your honor, would you prefer he hadn't done that? I mean, I know Lenny was upset for a little bit, but the story is forever. It's priceless. How can you?
I love Lenny, and I know that he hurt Lenny. He continues to hurt Lenny.
Yes,
yes he does.
Wife and the family. But
that wasn't really hurting Lenny. That was more of a practical joke.
And he's funny. I mean, I don't like what he does to his brother. You know, but
that's a whole other story.
I'm going to book him based on the fact that he's funny. Do I like it? Absolutely not.
I don't like what Kevin does to himself, Estee. Let alone what he does to his brother.
Listen, I remember a couple of years ago, whatever, his wife calling me to ask me where Kevin is. I mean, he's messing up all over the place.
Is that the only time that's ever happened? You've
That's
never
legend.
had other.
No, but with Kevin, yes.
Oh, okay.
That's legend.
I went and did Kevin's podcast, and he hung his clothes over chairs in the comic strip to dry. Like he just did his laundry.
That would make me quit comedy right away.
By the way,
I'm done.
I heard, and this is not a joke. Tony Woods is working Uber Eats during the pandemic as for fun. He's bored.
Yeah, I heard that from Kevin.
Yeah.
I would double check on that, though. I heard it from Kevin.
That's not true, is it?
I think he's doing it for fun. He says it keeps him busy.
That's like Andy Kaufman doing busboy work.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
all that food is late. For sure.
Ironically, he's the most efficient delivery guy.
That food comes when Tony says you're gonna eat.
Where's my food? It'll come when it comes.
It's on the way, baby.
I'm eating it with you.
You think you eat the food the minute you get it?
All right, so what else, guys? What do you think? Do you think that the future of a comedy for a short while at least is going to be customers in masks?
I don't know when the next time we'll be on stage. Honestly, I can't put a date to it. I don't think.
Yeah. No, I texted you. I asked you how you guys are holding up, and I wanted to see like when you think you're gonna open. What's your anticipation?
That's his old number. He didn't give you the new one.
I feel like, all right, this is, let's say this is May 1st. It's May 5th. Let's say June, July 1st.
That's when you think you'll
Really?
open? I mean, Cuomo hasn't said that's gonna.
Then.
Cuomo hasn't said anything beyond the 15th.
But he said it's stage 4 is entertainment and.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So I mean, I honestly, I mean, full capacity is not going to be till 2021. And
Noam, would you contemplate opening Vegas if they are opening? Because the rumor is June 1st.
I don't know. I don't know what the fuck to do. I'd like to just walk away from Vegas if I could. I don't know what to do.
Is it too much
Why?
liability? Is there any liability for an audience member if they get sick on you?
No, it's not liability. It's that the opening of a club in Vegas was to take advantage of a boom in comedy and to try to now and it was difficult to make ends meet there within the boom, to try to put that kind of effort into which at best is going to be to tread water, not to make a dime, and it could take hours of our time and stress and whatever it is. So I'm just not looking forward to it. I wish it didn't exist, but because Vegas is not coming back strong, in my opinion, not for a while. And it costs a lot of money to send all the comedians out there. And then if you want to, it reminds me of the food spots I meant to say before, like, you should always remember we were doing food spots because we couldn't afford it. Like that was the reason. We weren't, trying to keep money, and we can prove that now because we pay the highest. But at that time, that's what we had to do. And in Vegas, if I'm in that situation again and I have to ask comedians to work for less money, and it's all things that I really don't. I'd rather just take the loss than having to, put my hat in my hand and ask people to work for less money than they used to.
Correct me if I am wrong. We made a good name for ourselves in Vegas. Do you think you can rework a deal with the casino?
We have a good deal with the casino. The thing is, we got to pay air flights and travel for 4 comedians plus an MC every week, and they all got to make whatever it's upward, like I forget what it is. It's $2,500, whatever it is. For it's.
Listen,
like,
that was a great.
Like
that
was $15,000 a week entertainment cost, something like that, for just spots, no headliners, and then we have to pay the airfare, and then we have to pay a little bit on the rooms, and we need to have business. And the thing is, if we don't have business, we're gonna lose tens of thousands of dollars a week. So, yeah, that's it.
How many? No, you probably know more than anybody. How many of these clubs in the city do you see going under?
Actually,
all of them.
I think that there are clubs in the city. A lot of them won't be able to sustain.
Well, I think
there were some of them that were
already drowning
poorly before.
Yeah.
When times were good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the thing. The reason I'm hesitant about that is because in a situation where everybody's affected, there is a chance that actually nothing will change so easily, because landlords don't throw people out at a time when they don't have anybody else to come fill the room. And everybody, it's not like someone else is going to come into that spot that whatever club you had in mind goes out of business, and then what the landlord going to do. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on landlords just to make deals on the rent. Okay, you can owe me this money and pay it off over the next 5 years or whatever it is, because once the tenant leaves, it's done. So I think fewer clubs are going to go out than you might think. I think people just find a way to hang in there until we come out of our coma. It's kind of like an economic coma. Until the coma ends, we'll just kind of be on life support, all of us. That's what I think.
Well, hopefully we come out like Artie Fuqua.
Hopefully we come out like Artie Fuqua.
Oh, Ricky. Hey, Ricky, keep your hair long like that. It looks really good.
like my hair like this, Essie?
I love it.
Oh,
Okay.
that is such a good analogy.
You look a little bit like a young Clark Gable with a hair like that.
Clark Gable. That's something I'm gonna have to Google, Estee.
Clark Gable?
I see it. I see it.
Yeah, but
Build
like,
a wall. Build a wall. He doesn't know who Clark Gable is, Estee.
Did you say build the wall?
Yeah. How you not know who Clark Gable is?
with the hair like this and a little.
Oh, okay. I see.
Gone with the Wind, Clark Gable.
I got
Yeah.
it. Got it.
Young, you know.
One of the top 10 biggest movie stars of all time, probably.
You put him in the 10.
I think he is probably.
Absolutely.
But all time means like before 1980, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
Gable, Cary Grant.
in the sense of a percentage of how much one particular movie actor at the time dominated all the rest.
Yeah.
Clark Gable was
Alan Havey, Dave Patel.
like Michael Jordan or like Wilt Chamberlain, you know? Like I don't know if Wilt Chamberlain could beat the guys today. I have no idea, but in his day, there was Wilt Chamberlain and then there was everybody else. That was
Right.
Clark Gable. Clark Gable was that level of a star. Anyway, and yet nobody remembers him today. Shows how fleeting our life is.
That's so scary to me.
Yeah.
I'm just
It
not good
is,
with names. I'm not
because-
good with names.
He was a giant movie star. He was do you know who Cary Grant is?
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
not gonna know.
Of course.
You
Chaplin.
education guys.
Charlie Chaplin was probably the biggest star in the history of the world.
Yeah.
And you know,
But the leading man was Clark Gable and Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart and what's his name, Cooper and Harry Ford. They were leading men. You went to see a movie because they were in it.
Mhm.
You know, the only one before he went completely crazy was Johnny Depp nowadays. That you go and see a movie if Johnny Depp is in it.
No, Denzel.
Leo.
Leo,
And
yeah.
that's now. I'm talking different, you know.
Johnny Depp, you said though, but Johnny hasn't been hot for that longer than.
That's what I'm saying. Not
Okay.
now, but there was a time that if he was in the movie, I would go and see a movie.
I used to feel that way about Dustin Hoffman, like in the 70s, but not in a long while.
Yeah, but he wasn't a leading man. He's more of a character actor.
No,
I mean, it's similar with comedy and Apatow movies. Everybody goes to see those based on his complete track record, right, Ricky? Exciting stuff, man.
Yeah.
there was
What's the story with your movie?
It comes out June 12th, Estee. You better buy it. I'm not going to send you a link. We need the clip.
Better come gift wrap, Ricky.
No, come on. You know.
I can't wait to see
You get
it.
a link, Estee.
Can't
I'm gonna
wait.
call you guys' attention to this, and we got to sign off. This was online this week. Judd Apatow's comedy masterpiece about the movie Funny People, and this is in a right-wing publication, National Review. He thinks it's one of the greatest comedy movies ever made.
I mean, Judd's good at what he does. I think.
Judd is brilliant. He really is. He has the nose.
And I think the movie's going to just resonate really hard in this time right now. I think a lot of people need it. I mean, it touches everything that everybody's going through right now. So I think it's great.
How big is your part in it? What's your part?
It's big. It's
Big.
big. I have a big part. Yeah. It's
Plays Pete's best friend.
I play the person you don't want Pete to turn into. That's how I will.
What a fun part.
Is it big enough that you could qualify? Is it big enough that you would be qualified for best supporting actor if that like that level of a part?
No, but I want Bill Burr to get that.
Bill Burr's part is big enough for that.
Really?
Bill,
What's Burr's part?
Burr is absolutely incredible. He plays the guy that starts dating Pete's mom.
Oh.
He's truly incredible. He was incredible to work with, even though he reminded me of my dad. It was fun. He's a true professional. Came on, knew all of his lines every day. He was really incredible.
He's an amazing guy, and nobody's fucking funnier than Bill Burr.
Yeah.
That guy is so.
He's so great in the film. I'm really excited for people to see it for him, because I think from here on out he will have a movie a year. I really do think that.
I can't wait for that movie. I'm
Like,
so excited.
It's gonna be huge.
Yeah, Pete
So
and
excited.
Judd doing Fallon this week.
Mostly because I like everybody in it.
It's
So I
Yeah.
can't vait.
it's fun. Vecchione is in it. He does great.
Who?
Mike Vecchione.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he grew a Jared Freid stash for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Rich Voss has a great part in it, which is great. It's fun.
What's it like? What's it like to be directed by Judd Apatow when he's not happy with the way you're doing a scene?
I mean, Judd's not afraid to correct. So but at the same time, he lets you go so far and take so many chances that you trust him. So it's to be corrected by him is just like, oh, I was out of pocket, which I mean didn't happen much.
How come you don't ask me? I've worked a lot.
that was you. I'm sorry.
Ask me, and I tell you.
Estee's got the most credits
You know
in the
what he
room.
does? I'll tell you what he does.
Than I do.
But I've seen him do with, when I was there. He would say, and now say so and so, and now say so and so. And then when he edits, he takes the one part he likes. He doesn't beat you up on anything else. That's what I've seen him do in Trainwreck and in Crashing.
It was truly my favorite work I ever did. Like even with the Nightly show and the rest of that, and how often I got to write my own stuff, and the way I was able to move through that show. Working with Judd was he just made you explore more avenues, I would say.
He's very easygoing, right, Ricky?
Yeah, absolutely. He's
Very easygoing.
And
I didn't see him once get upset.
yeah, no, I that was not a thing that happened on set. And he's happy. He's just a good guy.
Yeah.
Like he's really a
And
good
he
guy.
provides the best lunches.
And he provides the best environment to be creative. That's really what I
He's
Well,
really,
on
really
that
nice.
subject, the best lunches, what's it like to be on a movie set where it's like a real movie? Like it's not like a student film.
Yes and no. Because I mean, like in my part, I'm a co-producer on the movie as well, which was like an honor. But at the same time, like I had to. I worked a lot more than a lot of other people, and I mean, I don't know. There was certain days like, yeah, they had lobster some days, but at the same time, that's not what I was ever excited about. What I was excited about was the next scene, or if I was getting to tape that day. Those were my favorite days. So where I just went from working writing to working actually on tape. Like it's just incredible. And I mean, when you have people like him and his partner Barry Mandel that works with, like, you're just working with guys that just know how to make. And those guys.
He filmed it in film, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because of all the improv.
The guy that shot There Will Be Blood.
He works most of the time. He works with the same people. There Will Be
Blood is one of the greatest movies ever.
So good.
We shot with Bob Ellsworth. He was one of the most.
Which movie?
There Will Be Blood.
The movie we shot. He shot There Will Be Blood, and he shot our movie. And I'm not kidding you. I've never met such a legend. You ever meet somebody and you're just like, oh, this guy, the way he moves, the way he talks, how he talks to people, and the rest of that was just incredible. And he was just such an artist that like it pulled the best out of you every time.
And that's kind of similar in some kind of way to the fact that Woody Allen uses the same cinematographer that did The Godfather, right? I forget his name, but
I might correct me. I think this is the first time Judd had worked with Bob, and I mean, Bob was just such a pleasure. I mean, it was the coolest thing, man. It was like to work with somebody that like worked with real actors, and then I got to curse in front of them was incredible.
And now Judd is working with Ricky on Ricky's movie.
Ricky's TV show. We have a deal over at HBO right now, which is been fun. and keeping my mind off the world ending.
One last question before we go. So there's a script, and obviously these movies have a lot of improv. Is it free for all, or do you do it as written at least once or twice, and then once you have that in the can, then you do other stuff?
No, you 100% get the lines that are done on script first. Yeah, and from there, I mean, they let you roll, they let you go. I mean, if it's going real well, they'll throw another thing of film in it and let you go even more, because like Mike was saying, like, we filmed on film, which is that's not known too much anymore.
Not in comedy, especially.
Yeah, and I mean, I heard it was like something like 900 feet of film were sent back to LA. Like it's just like insane shit.
More than that.
It was something insane. Yeah, no, it was, yeah. I mean, you hit your lines and then you go from there. And Judd also directs you in the way of, hey, try this out, try that, try this, and then.
That's exactly
but you gotta understand when me and Peter working together, like this is my best friend. Like, you know, that's easy. Like that's easy to go back and forth and improv with him. It's easy. Any of these guys on this screen, I can go back and forth with all day. It's just like feeling that camaraderie, and that's what Judd is great at doing, is getting a group of people together and make amazing films.
What percentage of the scenes, the key scenes that you would actually do improv on, what percentage of them are from the script, and what percentage of them ended up evolving into something other than what was the script? Or do you know yet? Have you seen the final cut?
Yeah, I actually got to watch it the other day with my in-laws, which was really cool. I honestly couldn't give you that answer, but at times, like the improv found different tunnels that we can use to get to different scenes, which is weird to say, but I just feel like the script is there as a skeleton, and the rest of it is just on, and it can move through that. There were certain scenes totally changed to different ways by the end.
I've seen him do it also in same thing. It's like a seamstress, and you go for the fitting, and they start moving the pins around to fit you better.
Yeah.
Really, that's what I've seen him do that.
I'm the only one other than you that wore dresses.
As long as you know, what he wants, then he plays around with it. The main idea stays the same, but then he improvises. Say that, or maybe not that, or look this way, or sit that way. He works it out that way.
Are you in this movie too, Estee?
Huh?
You in this movie too?
No. I'm gonna make sure to be in the next one though.
Is Natterman in it?
Estee didn't want to take the drive to Staten Island. That's the truth.
Is Natterman in it at all? Is Natterman in it?
No, but he'll comment about it on Facebook.
Why? What did he say?
No, he's just a big Facebook commenter.
Yeah, he is.
No spoiler, it's about Natterman.
All right. We have to go. This was really a good show. I think it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So thank to everybody. You know, I know that it's traditional to everybody give their Twitter handles and stuff, but I think really in this day of Google, if you can't figure out where to find these people,
I want to hear from them.
Don't need these fans. All right, just put their name and you'll find them. All right. Good night, everybody. Be safe. Okay.
Bye.
Good night,
guys.
Bye. Have a good night, guys.